Have you ever felt completely hijacked by your emotions? Maybe you've experienced that sudden surge of anger, the grip of anxiety, or a wave of sadness so overwhelming it leaves you feeling utterly out of control. Imagine if you could face any challenge, any setback, with a calm and unshakable mind. It might sound far-fetched, but that's not just a dream. It's the promise of Stoicism. In the whirlwind of modern life, where external events constantly buffet our inner landscape, mastering our emotions is no luxury, it's a dire necessity. We've all felt it, the sting of impulsive anger that we later regret, the paralysis of fear that holds us back, or the consuming grip of endless anxiety that wears us down. These powerful emotional tides can sweep us away from our intentions, compromise our relationships, and undermine our well-being. They leave us feeling like passengers rather than pilots of our own lives. But what if an ancient, time-tested philosophy offered a profound roadmap to navigate these turbulent inner waters? What if it could help cultivate an unshakable stability within, regardless of the chaos outside? This is the core promise of Stoicism. Stoicism, a school of philosophy born in ancient Greece and later refined in Rome, isn't about eradicating emotions or becoming a cold, unfeeling automaton. That's a common misconception. Instead, Stoicism is about understanding the nature of our emotions, distinguishing between those that are healthy and those that are harmful, and developing the wisdom and self-control to ensure that our emotions serve us rather than enslave us. It's about achieving what the Stoics called apatheia. Not apathy in the modern sense, but a state of freedom from destructive passions and disturbances. This leads to an inner peace and rational tranquility that allows you to remain steady no matter what happens. For the Stoics, controlling your emotions isn't just about feeling better in the moment. It's about living a more rational, virtuous, and fulfilling life. After all, a calm mind isn't an end in itself. It's the foundation for making good decisions and living well. The Stoic compass, discerning what's within your control. The bedrock of Stoic emotional control lies in a foundational principle known as the dichotomy of control. This concept is elegant in its simplicity, but revolutionary in its application. It teaches that some things are entirely within our power, while most things are not. According to the Stoics, much of our suffering comes from futilely trying to control things that we cannot control and neglecting the things that we can control. So, what is within your control? In essence, your own mind and actions. For example, you have power over your judgments and opinions about events, your intentions, decisions, and choices, how you decide to act, your desires and aversions, what you choose to seek or avoid, your actions and reactions, how you respond to whatever happens, your character and virtue, the kind of person you choose to be. These things depend on you and your own will. And what is not within your control? Basically, everything outside your own mind. For instance, other people's actions, opinions, and feelings. You can't dictate how someone else behaves or thinks. External events and circumstances, the weather, the economy, politics, accidents, traffic jams, pandemics, etc. The past and the future, what has already happened or what is yet to come. Your body, to some extent. You can make healthy choices, but you don't control illness, aging, or genetics completely. Your reputation, wealth, and social status, you can influence these indirectly through your actions, but ultimately they're decided by external factors and other people. Whenever we feel overwhelmed by emotions like anger, frustration, or anxiety, often it's because we're fixated on something from that not in my control category. For instance, have you ever been stuck in traffic and felt rage because someone cut you off on the road? You cannot control that other driver's behavior. No amount of shouting or honking will reach into their car and make them drive differently. But you can control your judgment about their action. Maybe they made a mistake or are in a hurry. It's not personal. And you can control your own reaction, taking a deep breath instead of yelling back. A Stoic recognizes that clinging to a desire for things to be other than they are, especially when those things are external and uncontrollable, is a recipe for emotional turmoil. The practice here is to constantly ask yourself, is this within my control? If it is, then great. Focus your energy on taking the best, most virtuous action you can. If it isn't, then make a conscious effort to let it go and accept it with equanimity. This doesn't mean you have to like what happened, but you acknowledge I can't change this external fact, so I will not let it ruin my inner peace. This kind of radical acceptance of what cannot be changed is the first crucial step toward emotional freedom. By refusing to fight unwinnable battles against the outside world, you reclaim that energy to use where you do have power, your own mind. Instead of dissipating your strength on externals, you fortify your inner citadel, your inner fortress of calm. You become like a rock in a stormy sea. The waves, events crash around you, but you stand firm, knowing what is and isn't up to you. Understanding emotions, the Stoic framework of passions. The Stoics did not deny or ignore emotions. In fact, they analyzed them thoroughly. They understood that emotions are a natural part of being human. However, they drew an important distinction between different types of emotions. In Stoic philosophy, most emotions, especially the intense, turbulent ones, are referred to as passions, pathe in Greek, which are seen as the result of false judgments. But they also acknowledge healthy emotions, which arise from correct reasoning. Let's break this down into two categories. 1. Good emotions, eupathei. These are the healthy, rational emotions that align with virtue and reason. The Stoics believe that a wise person experiences these good feelings rather than the destructive passions. They include, for example, kara, joy, not mindless giddiness, but a rational joy that comes from doing what is right and virtuous. It's that deep contentment you feel when you know you've done good or witnessed goodness. Eulabeia, caution, a rational avoidance of what is truly harmful. In Stoicism, harmful means morally bad, vice. This isn't the same as irrational fear. It's a healthy caution, like the instinct to step back from a reckless action because you know it's wrong or dangerous to your character. Belesis, willingness or rational desire, a sane desire for what is truly good. In Stoic terms, that means a desire for virtue and moral excellence. It's the kind of will that drives you to be honest, brave, or self-controlled because you understand those are true goods. The Stoics considered these eupathei not as passions in the negative sense at all, but as the proper emotions of a well-ordered soul. These feelings are guided by reason. They are expressions of a virtuous character, and they support our well-being rather than sabotaging it. 2. Bad emotions, passions or pathe. These are the more familiar, tumultuous emotions that tend to throw us off balance. The Stoics viewed these passions as excessive, irrational reactions stemming from faulty judgments about what is good or bad. They identified 4 primary types of passions: distress, Greek, lupe. This is a feeling of pain, sadness, or anguish that arises from the false belief that something truly bad or evil is happening to you right now. For example, grief, sorrow, and even anger can fall into this category, since they often come from the view that something terrible is upon me. Envy and jealousy are also forms of distress in Stoic thinking. They involve pain at seeing someone else's supposed advantage, based on the belief that you're lacking a true good. Fear, Greek phobos. This is the anxiety or dread about something in the future that you believe could harm you. It's born from the judgment that an impending evil is coming. Panic, terror, worry, those are all variations of fear. For instance, you might feel fear before a big presentation because you believe the embarrassment of failure would be a genuine disaster for you. Craving or lust, Greek epithymia. This passion is an excessive desire for something based on the false belief that a certain thing is a true good that you absolutely must obtain. This includes greed for money, an obsessive desire for pleasure, lust for power, or addictive urges. For example, craving status or luxury because you think those will make you truly happy. The Stoics would say that's a passion born of misjudging what is good. Excess delight, Greek hedon. This is an irrational or excessive pleasure, a sort of wrongful elation in something that isn't actually good. It often comes after indulging an irrational desire. Think of feeling a thrill at someone else's misfortune, malicious joy, or gloating when you win in a situation through underhanded means. That burst of pleasure is real, but it's based on unhealthy values or false beliefs. For example, the belief that someone else's loss is your gain, or that indulging in a destructive habit is a good thing. For the Stoics, these passions are not just random feelings that happen to us. They are tied to our judgments about the world. In other words, at the root of every destructive emotion is a belief or value that is off base. For example, take anger. Anger isn't just a flash of temper that comes from nowhere. In the Stoic view, anger is a result of a judgment. The belief that someone has wronged you in a way that truly matters, as if they attacked your personal value or virtue. And additionally, the belief that retaliating or getting angry is the proper response. If someone insults you in a meeting, you might instantly feel angry. But underlying that feeling might be the thought, how dare they? This is terrible. They made me look bad. I need to strike back to defend myself. The Stoics would say the real issue is the belief that the insult actually harms something that is truly good, your status or ego perhaps, and that revenge or outrage is justified. If you can question those beliefs, the anger can be diffused. Or consider fear. Fear often comes from the belief that something external can irreparably harm us, whether it's our body, our finances, our reputation, etc. If you lie awake at night anxious about losing your job, it's because you believe that such an event would be completely devastating to your life. Now, losing a job is difficult, but a Stoic would remind themselves, is my life or my virtue truly over if this happens? Or can I handle this and make the best of it? By adjusting that inner narrative, the fear can be managed. The Stoic approach to controlling these negative emotions, therefore, is not about suppression or pretending you don't feel anything. It's about examining and correcting the false judgments that give rise to those passions. If you believe that losing a sum of money is a catastrophic evil, you will feel great distress when it happens. But if you understand that money in Stoic terms is an indifferent, neither a true good nor a true evil, just something you might prefer to have but it isn't essential to virtue, then losing some money, while inconvenient or painful, isn't the end of the world. You'll still naturally feel concerned or disappointed, but that panic distress can diminish. You haven't lost anything truly essential. Your character, your ability to act with virtue remains intact, and that's what really matters. By seeing things in this light, your emotional reaction stays measured. Instead of despair, you might feel resolve. What can I learn from this loss? Or caution, I'll be more prudent next time, which are healthier responses. The more you align your judgments with reality, recognizing what is truly good, virtue, integrity, and what only seems good, money, status, etc., the more your emotional life comes under your control. The wild passions calm down, and the good emotions guided by reason take their place. The preemptive strike, proactive emotional regulation. One of the best ways to control intense emotions is to prevent them from overwhelming you in the first place. The Stoics were big on preparation. Instead of always being in reactive mode, they taught us to be proactive, to anticipate challenges and build our mental resilience ahead of time. Think of it like strengthening the walls of your fortress before a storm hits, rather than scrambling to patch things up during the downpour. Here are a few powerful Stoic strategies for proactive emotional regulation. Premeditatio malorum, foreseeing the evils. This is a fancy Latin term meaning the premeditation of troubles. It's the practice of deliberately contemplating potential future adversities before they happen. Now, why would anyone want to think about bad things that haven't happened yet? It's not to be pessimistic or to dwell in worry, but to inoculate yourself against shock and panic. For example, if you have an important project or meeting tomorrow, take a little time to imagine what could go wrong. My colleague might criticize my work. The client might hate our proposal. I might stumble on my words during the presentation. These thoughts aren't pleasant, but by envisioning them calmly now, you are preparing your mind. You might then also imagine how a Stoic version of you would respond. If X happens, I will keep my cool and focus on what I can do next. I won't take it personally. I'll respond with professionalism and calm. By mentally rehearsing difficulties in your ideal response, you reduce their power to surprise and unnerve you. It's like a mental fire drill. When the real fire comes, you've already practiced the exit route. If the project falls through or the colleague is critical, it won't devastate you because part of you will say, I expected this possibility. I know what to do. This builds confidence and resilience, making you less susceptible to impulsive emotional reactions if things don't go perfectly. Anticipating others' imperfections. People can be one of our biggest emotional triggers. A core Stoic practice is to remember that humans are fallible. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, had a famous morning routine. Each day he reminded himself, the people I deal with today may be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. This wasn't Marcus being dour for the sake of it. It was a form of premeditation applied to social life. By acknowledging ahead of time that some people will behave badly, he armed himself against surprise or personal offense. If someone acted rude or ungrateful that day, Marcus didn't waste time thinking, how could they? I can't believe this. Because he had literally believed it earlier that morning. He expected it. Instead, he could think, all right, here's the difficult person I anticipated. I knew this would happen. And I know their behavior is a result of their values and struggles. It's not about me. This mindset is powerful. When you expect people to have flaws, you're not thrown off balance when they show those flaws. It doesn't mean you approve of bad behavior, but you recognize it as a part of life. Everyone you meet is fighting their own battle, and sometimes they'll lose their temper, or be selfish, or say something ignorant. If you've already accepted that truth, you can meet it with a bit more patience, or at least neutrality. You won't immediately leap to anger or hurt feelings. Instead, you might even feel a bit of sympathy, or at least stay emotionally neutral, thinking, they must not know any better. I won't let their bad mood drag me down with it. This detachment protects you from letting others control your mood. Your peace becomes more imperturbable because it no longer depends on everyone treating you perfectly. Understanding human nature, the wider perspective. Beyond just expecting imperfections, Stoicism teaches us to view things from a cosmic perspective. The Stoics believed we live in an ordered universe guided by reason, logos. They saw human beings as part of a larger nature. When someone behaves badly, Stoics might remind themselves that this person is acting out of ignorance of the true good. In a sense, that's just the natural result of them not having the wisdom yet. It's like how a child might throw a tantrum over not getting candy. We don't take it as an act of profound malice. We understand the child doesn't know better. Similarly, if a coworker is arrogant or a stranger is rude, Stoics try to see it as, this is a human who hasn't learned or accepted what truly matters. Virtue. They are consumed by things like greed or ego because they think those are important. This perspective can create a kind of rational compassion. You don't have to like the bad behavior, but you might think of it as you would think of a natural occurrence. This is a part of life. Such people exist, and today I encountered one. That's okay, I can handle it. By viewing it this way, you free yourself from the personal sting. You realize it's not about me, it's about them and their own issues. This makes it easier to respond calmly or even kindly rather than with rage or hurt. In practical terms, it means you might address the behavior, if necessary, in a measured way or simply choose to ignore it, but you won't let it boil your blood. You remain steady, maintaining your inner stability. All of these proactive practices, premeditating potential problems, expecting human flaws, and seeing the bigger picture, act like a psychological armor. They won't prevent challenges from happening, but they will soften the blow of those challenges on your mind. You'll find that when difficulties arise, you're ready. Instead of reacting with, "Why me? This is awful," you might respond with, "Ah, here you are. I know what this is, and I know what remains in my control." It's a powerful shift that keeps emotions in check before they even flare up strongly. The moment of choice, reacting with reason, not reflex. Even with all the preparation in the world, you will still encounter moments when a strong emotion rises up unexpectedly. Maybe someone says something hurtful, or an accident happens out of the blue. The Stoics understood that we can't pre-plan everything. Thus, they placed huge importance on how we handle the very moment when an emotional trigger occurs. Between the stimulus, what happens, and your response, what you do or feel next, there is a brief moment of choice, and that is where your power lies. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that external events themselves don't directly cause our emotions. It's our judgment of those events, our interpretation, what Stoics call an impression, that causes the emotion. In practical terms, something happens, your mind immediately generates an impression or story about it, and then you feel an emotion based on that story. The crucial point is that you have the ability to question and vet these impressions before you fully buy into them. Picture this. You're walking and a big dog behind a fence lunges forward, barking ferociously. Immediately, an impression flashes in your mind. Danger! I'm about to be attacked. You feel a surge of fear. That reaction is understandable. But now imagine if you pause for just a second to look again. You notice the fence is secure, or the dog is on a strong leash. You realize, oh, I'm actually safe. The dog just startled me. Your heart rate starts to slow down as your mind revises the impression from imminent danger to, it just seemed dangerous at first, but I'm okay. In that little scenario, the key was the brief moment where you questioned the initial impression and chose whether to fully accept it. Stoics cultivate the habit of inserting a pause like that whenever possible. Epictetus advised his students in a very memorable way. He said, paraphrasing, "From the very beginning, make it your practice to say to every harsh impression, you are just an impression and not at all what you appear to be." This is a powerful technique. The moment you feel a strong emotion welling up, label what's happening. Okay, I have an impression that this person insulted me and therefore they're a bad person and I should get angry. That's the impression trying to take over. Then tell yourself, as Epictetus says, you are an impression, not necessarily reality. This creates a crucial mental gap. Instead of immediately assenting, agreeing to the notion that I've been wronged and anger is justified, you hold that impression at arm's length for a moment and examine it. This ability to step back and question your first impression is like a superpower for emotional control. It's the difference between feeling an emotion and being controlled by that emotion. If you can pause, you regain your autonomy. You can then deliberately decide, is this situation truly bad? Or is it just undesirable but manageable? Is this thing worthy of my anger, fear, or despair? What would a wiser response be? Often, just that little pause and internal dialogue is enough to prevent you from doing something you'll regret, or from spiraling deeper into a negative emotion. Another Stoic technique related to this is cognitive distancing. In modern terms, we might call it mindfulness or labeling. When a strong emotion hits, name it plainly to yourself. This is anger, or here is anxiety. By doing so, you treat the emotion as separate from you, like a phenomenon you're observing rather than identifying with completely. Instead of saying, I am angry, you can say, I feel anger rising, or there is anger in me right now. This might sound like semantics, but it reflects a big psychological shift. You are not your anger, you are the observer of your emotions. The anger is a passing state, one that you can watch and guide. Remind yourself in that moment. This feeling is a reaction, not reality itself. Just because I feel afraid doesn't mean something is truly threatening me at my core. Just because I feel insulted doesn't mean I'm actually diminished in worth. This kind of self-talk creates breathing room for your rational mind to step in before the emotion carries you away. The Stoics also practiced the view from above exercise, which is a beautiful way to instantly change your perspective, and thus your feelings. Here's how it works. When you find yourself caught in a swell of emotion, say you're extremely angry at someone's comment, or you're panicking about a mistake you made, mentally zoom out. Imagine rising higher and higher above the situation. See yourself from a bird's eye view. Then maybe imagine your city around you, filled with people each with their own worries and dramas. Then zoom out further, see your country, then the whole earth from space, a tiny blue dot. From up there, how big is that argument or that worry really? For example, you're furious because someone at work took credit for your idea. Up close in the conference room, that feels huge. Your heart is pounding, your face is hot with anger. Now do the view from above. Picture the office building from outside, then the neighborhood, now the city skyline. In the grand scheme, this incident is one little blip. That doesn't mean it's nothing or that you shouldn't address it, but it helps you realize that life is much larger than this moment. Your anger begins to look small and maybe even a bit trivial when set against the vast backdrop of the world. This exercise often brings a sense of calm and even humility. It reminds you that most of our daily troubles are not as catastrophic as we make them out to be. By seeing the bigger picture, you can literally feel your mind letting go of some of the intensity. Okay, this traffic jam, this spilled coffee, this rude stranger, in the story of my entire life, let alone the universe, it's not worth losing my serenity over. The view from above reinforces that idea. Through pausing to check impressions, labeling emotions, and zooming out, you train yourself to react with reason instead of raw reflex. You create a space in which you decide how to respond, rather than letting the emotion decide for you. This doesn't mean you become slow or disengaged. In fact, you might find you handle crises faster and more effectively when you're not busy panicking or raging. You're like a skilled driver who, when the car starts to skid, stays calm and steers out of it, rather than a panicked driver who slams the brakes and makes things worse. By practicing this stoic mental agility, you remain the master of your ship, steering even in stormy waters with a clear head. Sustaining inner stability, long-term practices, emotional control, as envisioned by Stoicism, isn't achieved by a one-time decision or a single technique. It's a way of life, a muscle that grows stronger with consistent exercise. Just like physical fitness, it requires regular practice and honest self-reflection. The Stoics developed daily habits and long-term practices to maintain their inner stability. Let's explore a few of these enduring practices that can help sustain your emotional mastery over the long haul. Amor fati, love your fate. This practice encourages not only accepting whatever happens to you, but actually embracing it. Amor fati means loving fate, seeing everything that occurs, good or bad, as necessary, as a part of the story that is your life. Now, loving things like setbacks or failures might sound strange. It doesn't mean you have to cheer and enjoy pain or injustice. Rather, it means fully acknowledging that what happens is beyond your control and choosing to accept it wholeheartedly, even finding a way to use it to your advantage. For example, if you lose a job opportunity, you practice saying, I will make something of this. Maybe this frees me to pursue something better or to learn a hard lesson that will strengthen me. Instead of wishing in vain that the past were different, you pour your energy into saying yes to reality and moving forward from there. How does this help with emotions? Well, a huge amount of emotional pain comes from resistance. The "no, this shouldn't have happened to me" feeling. Amor fati dissolves that resistance. If you can learn to love whatever happens, or at least accept it deeply, you eliminate the extra layer of suffering that comes from fighting reality. You begin to see obstacles as opportunities. Every difficulty becomes fuel for growth. If fate hands you lemons, a Stoic truly makes lemonade. And maybe even feels grateful for the lemons, because without them, how would they practice patience, resilience, or creativity? This mindset doesn't develop overnight, but as you gradually adopt it, you'll notice a profound increase in your peace of mind. Life will still present storms, but you'll find yourself saying, a storm. This will teach me how to sail better. Instead of, I hate storms. This is so unfair. Prehio, memento mori. Remember you will die. Of all Stoic practices, reflecting on mortality is one of the most powerful and famous. Memento mori means keeping in mind that we are mortal, that life is finite. At first glance, this might seem morbid or depressing to think about, but the Stoics use this awareness of death as a tool to enhance life. By remembering that you and everyone you love will one day no longer be here, you sharpen your appreciation for the present moment and for what truly matters. How does this help with emotional control? It puts things in perspective like almost nothing else can. Suppose you're upset because you had an argument with a close friend. Now consider, if you knew you or your friend might not be alive a year from now, how important would that argument seem? Likely not very important at all. You might decide to forgive quicker, or let it go, or tell your friend you care about them despite the disagreement. Memento mori gently reminds us that life is too short for us to squander it on petty anger, grudges, or trivial worries. It doesn't mean nothing matters. Actually, it means some things matter immensely, like love, virtue, having a positive impact, and other things not so much. It helps you prioritize your emotional energy. Next time you find yourself fuming because someone slighted you, or anxious because you might not get that promotion, recall memento mori. One day I will not even be here to have promotions or arguments. This isn't to make you sad, but to make you wise. It urges you to ask, given the short time I have, how do I want to spend it emotionally? In anger and worry, or in gratitude and purpose? Often the answer becomes clear. You calm down, you refocus, and you return to the present with a gentler heart. You might even find yourself more patient and kinder to others, realizing everyone's life is fragile and precious. In essence, remembering death teaches you how to truly live, and it shrinks the emotional hold of many things that don't deserve to dominate your mind. Journaling and daily reflection. Many Stoics practiced a daily review of their thoughts and actions. The Roman Stoic Seneca advised examining our day like a neutral observer. What habits did I improve? What bad habits did I reinforce? How could I handle situations better? The Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote Meditations, which is essentially his private journal of reflections, where he pep talks and sometimes scolds himself to stay on the Stoic path. How can you do this? Set aside a few minutes, perhaps each evening or morning, to journal or reflect quietly. Think about the events of the last day. Ask yourself, when did I get carried away by emotion? What exactly triggered me and why? Did I get angry at a rude comment online? Did I feel anxious about something at work? What belief or expectation of mine was behind that reaction? By pinpointing the cause, you can address the root next time. Also ask, where did I handle things well? Did I remain calm in that traffic jam? Did I respond with patience when my child was throwing a fit? Recognize and congratulate yourself for any instance where you applied a Stoic principle successfully. Positive reinforcement is important. If you slipped up, and we all do, Don't beat yourself up. Instead think, what Stoic tool could I have used? Maybe I forgot to remember what's in my control, or I didn't pause to examine my impression. This daily exercise is like training your mind and holding yourself accountable. Over time, you'll start noticing patterns. Perhaps you get anxious every Sunday night before the work week, or you lose your temper whenever you read news on a certain topic. With those insights, you can work on adjusting your mindset in those specific situations. Maybe do a pre-meditation before Monday comes, or limit your news intake, etc. Journaling also clears your mind. It's almost like talking to a therapist, except you are both the therapist and the patient, analyzing your own thoughts with Stoic wisdom. Many people find that writing down worries or anger actually lessens those emotions' grip, as if transferring them from the mind to the page sets you free. This consistent practice builds emotional awareness and resilience. Each day you get a little better at living like the person you want to be. Embracing discomfort, voluntary hardship. Stoics were big believers in the idea that occasional discomfort is healthy for the soul. Why? Because comfort can make us complacent and overly sensitive to small disturbances. Musonius Rufus, a Stoic teacher, suggested that we should sometimes practice getting by with very little. Skip a meal, sleep without a mattress, wear plain clothes, to remind ourselves that we don't need luxuries to be okay. Seneca, in his letters, writes about setting aside a few days to live rough, like eating coarse bread and wearing shabby clothes and then asking, "Is this what I feared?" The result is that you prove to yourself that you can endure more than you thought, and that many of the things you worry about losing, good food, a nice bed, a heated home, aren't as scary to live without as your imagination makes them out to be. How does this tie into controlling emotions? Well, a lot of fear and anxiety is fear of discomfort or loss. We fear pain, hunger, poverty, ridicule, etc. By voluntarily tasting a bit of those conditions, you rob them of their terror. If you've occasionally slept on the floor, then the prospect of, "What if I end up homeless?" becomes less paralyzing. You know the floor won't kill you. You can still get a night's rest. If you fast or eat very simple, cheap meals from time to time, then the idea of, "What if I can't afford nice dinners?" loses some sting. You know you can survive on rice and beans and still have a decent day. This practice builds confidence in your resilience. It sends you the message, "I am stronger and more adaptable than I thought." Consequently, when life does throw hardship at you without asking, maybe an injury, a financial setback, or even just a really cold night when the heater breaks, you won't crumble emotionally. You might think, "I've been through something like this by choice. I know I can handle it." Instead of fear or despair, you find it easier to engage your problem solving or just endure with a sense of dignity. This inner toughness means external events have less power to rattle you. In essence, by toughening the body and mind through a little voluntary hardship, you create a buffer against anxiety and distress. Future troubles won't find you soft and unprepared. They'll find you ready in season. Each of these practices, loving your fate, remembering mortality, daily reflection, and embracing discomfort, is a way to cultivate stability and resilience from within. They are long-term habits that slowly but surely transform your mindset. Over weeks and months, you might notice you don't get angry as easily as before, or you recover from upsets faster, or you maintain perspective in situations that used to throw you off. It's like strengthening a muscle. You won't notice a big change in one day, but stay consistent and you'll be amazed at the difference it makes over time. The goal is to make your mind as fortified and flexible as it can be, so that whatever life brings, your default is to remain calm, centered, and in control of yourself. Common emotional challenges and Stoic responses. Now let's bring it all together and look at a few common emotional struggles we all face and see how Stoic wisdom can guide us through them. Think of this as applying the Stoic toolkit directly to real-life feelings. Anger. Anger has been called a temporary madness. When you're angry, you might feel a burning sense of injustice or a need to retaliate. It often comes from the belief that someone did wrong to me or to something I care about, and this is a true evil that must be punished. For Stoics, anger is one of the most dangerous passions because it can so quickly push us to do things we regret. Stoic response to anger. First, remember that another person's bad behavior cannot truly harm your character. No matter what someone did, insulted you, cheated you, ignored you, it does not diminish your virtue or who you are unless you allow it to by responding with vice, like lashing out dishonestly or cruelly. Remind yourself, their action belongs to them. My reaction belongs to me. This is the dichotomy of control and action. You cannot control that they were rude, but you can control whether you'll let anger dictate your response. Second, try to pause when you feel anger surging. Anger wants you to act now, to shout back, send that nasty email, slam the door. The Stoic trick is to delay action until your mind cools. Take a few deep breaths. Ask yourself, what's actually at stake here? Is my core self or any true good in danger? Or is it my pride that's hurt? Often you'll find it's the latter. If someone cuts in line or makes a snide remark, it might offend you, but it doesn't take away your integrity, your loved ones, or your ability to live well. Reminding yourself of that can shrink the anger. Also, consider empathy, even just a little. Maybe that person who snapped at you is having a terrible day or is under great stress. Maybe the person who cut you off in traffic is rushing to an emergency. We usually don't have the full story of why people act as they do. This doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it frames it in a way that can dampen the flames of rage. Finally, recall Marcus Aurelius's wise words. How much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? Think about that. The cause of your anger might be someone's mean comment, which lasts a second, or a mistake that's already done. But the consequence of your anger, you stewing for hours, losing sleep, saying hurtful things, maybe damaging a relationship or your own reputation by acting out, those consequences can be far worse and longer lasting than the original offense. Marcus's point was that anger often hurts us more than whatever triggered the anger in the first place. By keeping that quote in mind, you might catch yourself. If I let this anger take over, I'm the one who suffers most. That thought alone can sometimes diffuse the emotion. Instead of acting in anger, Stoicism would suggest channeling your energy into a rational response. Maybe that means calmly addressing the issue, if it's important, or simply letting it go if it's trivial. In either case, you remain in control, not the anger. Anxiety and worry. Anxiety is that pit in your stomach or racing mind about something that might happen, the fear of future scenarios. It's fueled by uncertainty and our tendency to imagine the worst. You might worry about an upcoming exam, about your health, about global events, you name it. Your mind runs in circles, creating what-if movies, often more terrifying than reality. Stoic response to anxiety. When you're anxious, step one is to apply the dichotomy of control. Is this thing I'm worried about under my control, partially under my control, or not at all? If it's not in your control, say, you're anxious about the result of an interview that's already over, or about the economy or a loved one's choices. Recognize that no amount of stewing will change the outcome. Instead, a Stoic would focus on controlling their own mind in the present. For example, replacing worry with preparation in areas that are up to you. Maybe working on your skills for future opportunities, or simply preparing emotionally that, whatever happens, I will make the best of it. If the anxiety is about something you can influence, say a test you've yet to take, or a presentation you have to give, convert that worry into action. Use the energy to study, practice, get advice. Do what you can right now. Stoics emphasize living in the present moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote about not letting your mind run off to the future, but keeping it focused on the present task. Often, anxiety pulls us into a future that hasn't happened. Bringing yourself back to now, what can I do at this very moment, breaks that cycle. Another Stoic technique for anxiety is a mini version of premeditation. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could realistically happen? And answer it. Then ask, if that did happen, how would I handle it? What could I do? For instance, you're worried about a big project failing. Worst case, maybe the project fails and it's embarrassing or there are financial consequences. If that happened, what could you do? Perhaps you could explain to the team, learn from the mistakes, and start a recovery plan. Perhaps you might lose some money, but you'd still be alive and could rebuild. By actually walking through the worst case, you often realize two things. One, the worst case, while unpleasant, is something you are capable of enduring and responding to. And two, the worst case almost never actually comes to pass exactly as our fears imagine. This calms the mind. Your fear of the unknown turns into a familiarity with a scenario you know you could handle if needed. Finally, practice trusting yourself and fate. Tell yourself, whatever happens, I'll face it when it comes. Right now, I will not let tomorrow's potential problems rob me of today's peace. Focus on doing what's in your power now, like getting a good night's sleep instead of staying up fretting. Let the rest unfold as it will. Many Stoics found comfort in the idea that if you live in accordance with virtue, you can meet any outcome with your integrity intact, and that is success, regardless of what externally happens. Grief and sadness. At some point, we all face loss. Whether it's the death of a loved one, the end of a relationship, losing a job, or even just the gradual losses that come with time, youth, opportunities, etc. Grief is a natural response to losing something or someone important to us. The Stoics did not consider it wrong to feel sad. Even Stoic masters like Cato and Marcus Aurelius felt the sting of loss deeply. Marcus, for example, buried multiple children in his lifetime and mourned them. The key for Stoics was to grieve in a healthy, balanced way without losing oneself in endless despair. Stoic response to grief. First, acknowledge the feeling. Stoicism is not about being a stone. If you lose someone dear, you will feel pain, and that's okay. It's a sign of your love or the value you placed on what was lost. The Stoics would actually encourage leaning into gratitude for that love. Instead of only saying, I lost something, try to also say, I was fortunate to have something worth grieving. This shift towards gratitude can gently lessen the pain by reminding you that you haven't been robbed entirely. The memories, the impact, the love you shared, those remain as a gift in your life. Second, recall the concept of indifference and memento mori. In Stoicism, things like life and death, health and sickness, wealth and poverty are considered indifferent in the sense that they don't affect your moral worth. This doesn't mean they don't matter at all to us as humans. It means that having them or not doesn't make you a better or worse person morally. The death of a loved one is outside your control. It's part of the natural order, and no amount of tears can bring them back. What is within your control is how you honor them and move forward. Stoics often reminded themselves that every person is mortal. If you truly embrace memento mori, when the sad day comes, it is not a shock, but a deeply painful event that you always knew was possible. This foreknowledge, if you've cultivated it, can help temper the feeling that this shouldn't have happened. You know it's the way of the world. All who live, die. It doesn't remove sadness, but it can remove the bitterness or feeling of injustice that sometimes comes with grief. You might say, I knew I could lose them. I just hoped it would be later. But I will try to be grateful it wasn't sooner. Also focus on what you haven't lost. You still have your own life, your own capacity to do good, to love others, to continue the legacy of what was good about what you lost. If you lost money or a job, yes, it hurts, but you haven't lost your talents, your ability to work hard, or your friends and family. If you lost health in some way, you haven't lost your spirit or mind. Stoicism teaches us to see that no external loss can cripple our inner selves unless we let it. Lastly, consider how your loved one, if it's a person, would want you to live. Most likely, they'd want you to heal and find happiness again. Seneca wrote a letter consoling his mother while he was in exile. He told her not to overwhelm herself with grief and reminded her of her own strength and of the natural law of life's changes. In your sadness, be patient with yourself, but also trust that as long as you don't feed the grief with dire judgments like, "This is the end of my world," your natural resilience will in time help the clouds to part. Every day, focus on small positive actions. A Stoic finds solace in doing their duty and being of service, which can be very healing. For example, if you mourn a lost loved one, perhaps channel that energy into something that person cared about, or simply into being a compassionate presence for others who suffer. By turning your grief into love in action, you transform the pain into something meaningful. Envy and jealousy. These are tricky emotions that often hide in the shadows of our minds. Envy is when you feel pain or resentment at someone else's success or good fortune. And jealousy is often the fear of losing something or someone to another person. Both stem from comparing ourselves to others and feeling we come up short. It's the belief that they have X and I don't, and that diminishes me or makes me less. We might envy someone's wealth, looks, status, relationship, talent, you name it. Stoic response to envy. The Stoic antidote to envy begins with redefining what is truly good. Society might drum into us that wealth, fame, beauty, or popularity are the greatest goods. But Stoicism boldly claims that the only true good is virtue, being a wise, just, courageous, self-controlled person, and the only true evil is vice, the opposite of those virtues. Everything else is indifferent. This means that if someone else has a mansion or 1,000,000 followers or a gold medal, they don't automatically have something better in the Stoic sense. They just have a different assortment of indifference. They could be a great person or a terrible person, regardless of those externals. So ask yourself, the thing I envy, is it actually a reflection of true happiness or virtue, or just an external thing that might or might not accompany a good life? Often, when you look closer, you see that externals are no guarantee of a happy life. The wealthy person you envy might be emotionally miserable. The attractive person might be deeply insecure. The famous person might long for privacy. This isn't schadenfreude. It's a reminder that every life has struggles and that externals are not all they're cracked up to be. Next, focus on your own path. Instead of letting envy turn into ill will toward the other person, use it as inspiration. If you admire something genuinely admirable about them, say their discipline or skill, what stops you from developing those qualities in yourself? If they achieve something through hard work, perhaps you can learn from their example. On the other hand, if your envy is over something superficial, remind yourself it's not worth your peace. Practice gratitude as a direct counter to envy. List the things you have that you wouldn't trade for anyone else's. Maybe you have a loving family, or a career you're proud of, or your health, or simply your unique perspective and experiences. No one else has your life. Envy zooms in on one slice of someone else's life and ignores the rest of their picture and your own. Gratitude zooms out to see the full landscape of your life and appreciate its richness. Also, try to cultivate a sense of sympathetic joy. This is the flip side of envy, where instead of resenting someone's success, you deliberately feel happy for them. It might not come naturally at first, but you can reason it out. Would I really wish them to be less happy or capable? If this good thing happened to my friend instead, I'd be happy, so why not for this person too? Wishing others well feels better than wishing them ill, and it doesn't take anything away from you. Lastly, a Stoic would remind themselves that your competition is not other people, it's yourself. The only race that matters is the one where you try to be better than you were yesterday. If seeing someone excel triggers envy, refocus on what you can do to excel in your own way. Their journey is theirs. Yours is yours. You can't control their luck or advantages, but you can control your effort and attitude. By internalizing this, envy loses its grip. Instead of a rival, others become either teachers from whom you learn or partners in the human experience. And you remain centered on what truly makes you better, cultivating your own virtue and wisdom. These are just a few examples, but they cover a lot of emotional ground. In each case, anger, anxiety, grief, envy, the Stoic approach is about shifting our perspective, questioning our assumptions, and remembering what is in our control. It's not that a Stoic never feels these things. They do. The difference is that a Stoic works to not stay trapped in these emotions or act against their values because of them. They apply reason and their philosophical tools to transform these emotions into something more useful, or at least to diminish their harm. Over time, practicing these responses becomes more natural. You might catch yourself automatically taking a deep breath when angry, or reminding yourself, "We'll see what happens, I can handle it," when worried. That's a sign of progress. The philosophy is sinking in, and you're becoming emotionally stronger and freer. The philosopher is physician, a lifelong practice. For the Stoics, philosophy wasn't just abstract talk, it was medicine for the soul. They often liken the philosopher to a doctor and the teachings to therapeutic remedies. The idea is that we all have inner sicknesses, like excessive anger, fear, greed, etc. And philosophy provides diagnoses and treatments for these conditions. Learning to control your emotions is an ongoing healing process, a journey of personal growth that lasts a lifetime. Remember that controlling your emotions, Stoic style, doesn't mean never having emotions. It doesn't mean becoming a robot who feels nothing. Rather, it means you aim to feel the right emotions, to the right degree based on true judgments. You want your emotions to be in line with reason and virtue. If something bad happens, it's appropriate to feel concern and sadness, but not abject despair, because your reason knows that as long as you're alive and free to choose, you can try to make the situation better or find a path forward. If something good happens, it's fine to feel happy and grateful, but not to a crazy, delusional extreme that forgets fortune can change, or that others may not be as fortunate as you. It's a balanced, wise, emotional life we're after, not an emotionless void. This journey requires constant vigilance and practice. Think of it like practicing a musical instrument or training in a sport. You don't hit the perfect note or make the perfect play every single time without endless practice, and even then, occasional mistakes. Similarly, you will have days where you get carried away by anger or anxiety despite all you know. And that's okay. The Stoic approach when you stumble is not to throw up your hands and say, "I failed, I guess I can't do this." Instead, it's to be kind to yourself, yet firm. Analyze what went wrong, maybe in your journal that night, and learn from it. I lost my temper with my kids today. Why? I was tired and I had the expectation that everything should be quiet when I got home. Next time, I'll remind myself before walking in the door. They're kids, it's okay if they're noisy. I'll take a moment to reset my mind. With this mindset, every emotional stumble becomes a chance to improve your technique for next time. Gradually, the work pays off. As the months and years go by, you find that the storms of life don't shake you as much. Situations that would have made you furious or panicked in the past now elicit a calmer, more measured response. People around you might even notice, "You're so patient lately," or "I'm impressed by how you handled that." Of course, you're not doing it for applause, but it's a sign that you're growing internally. You'll notice it too, an inner peace and freedom that you maybe only glimpsed before. That inner freedom is priceless. The Stoic sage, the ideal person in Stoic philosophy, is said to be as free as one can be because nothing within can be conquered by the outside world. We might not reach sage-level perfection, but every step closer is worth it. When you are the master of your inner self, external events lose a lot of their power to throw you into turmoil. It's like being the eye of the hurricane, calm, centered, even though there's a storm around. You respond to life's challenges with your best self, not your panicked self. In the end, the reward of practicing Stoic emotional control is not just that you feel better day to day, though you will experience more calm and fewer wild swings of destructive emotion. The real reward is deeper. It's living a life of integrity, stability, and wisdom. It's the confidence that whatever fate sends, you'll meet it with grace. You become, as the Stoics love to say, invincible to misfortune. Not because misfortunes won't happen, but because you've built an inner armor of character and perspective that misfortune cannot penetrate. To sum it up, the goal is not to eliminate emotions, but to align them with reason. Instead of being chained by anger, fear, or envy, you transform your emotions into sources of strength and insight. Your compassion, your sense of justice, your joy in others' goodness, let those feelings flourish. Your anger, your greed, your irrational fears, those you work to tame and educate until they serve you, not rule you. As one Stoic might say, I want to be passionate, but only about the right things. When your emotions serve your highest values and are guided by a clear head, they become powerful allies. No longer are they wild horses dragging you wherever they want. You hold the reins. This is a lifelong journey, but one absolutely worth taking. Every day is an opportunity to practice. Some days you'll triumph, some days you'll slip, but with each lesson, you move forward. Over time, you truly become, as the Stoics envisioned, the pilot of your own life, sailing steadily through whatever waters you find yourself in. Thank you for reading and hopefully living this Stoic guide to inner stability. If you found value in this and want to strengthen your own Stoic practice, let's keep the conversation going. Before you go, if you enjoyed this and it resonated with you, please give the video a thumbs up and share it with others who might benefit from a calmer mind. I'd love to hear your own experiences or questions about controlling your emotions, so feel free to leave a comment below. And of course, if you want more insights on Stoicism and living a fulfilling life, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay strong, stay stoic, and see you in the next video.